welcome to the September episode of From the Mayor's Desk, featuring Mayor Tim Woolley, our guest of honor. Good to see you again, Mayor.
Good to see you, Carl.
It's fantastic. How's the day going for you?
It's going good. Yeah, it's a little lighter of a schedule today, so it was kind of nice. You know,
It always is when
some
it lightens up
impromptu
a
meetings, but other than that, it's been a good day. Sun's shining.
Unfortunately, let's start right in here. We're going to start on a little bit of a somber note. Okay. Last month we had the passing of City Council member Ira Slavin. Ira was a lifetime resident of the city of Taylor, and he was really embedded in the community. He was a fire inspector, Grand Master of the Masons, a military veteran. You had a lot of thoughts on this.
I've known Ira since I can remember. You know, as far as I started playing Little League, I think at 6, and from the time I can remember, I remember Ira being a part of that. He was never my coach, but he was always. I don't know if he even. I think he did coach later on, but I remember him being on the board.
Right.
I think he was like the treasurer or something like that. And my best friend at the time, his dad ended up becoming the president of the Little League, Randy Burleson. And I was with them all the time at, the trailer and the board meeting. And, so we all hung out together and stuff. But known Ira a long time, always had some great stories. I know he was very dedicated and loved his city, a long time. I think he was not sure of the title, but the Grand Master of Michigan and the Masons, former firefighter, like you said, the inspector and stuff. And, I always got along good with Ira. We didn't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, I think we still liked and respected each other. And it's a sad situation. I just ran into his wife the other day, and she seems to be doing good. And, it's a sad situation.
The thought of draping his area there on council with black and adding flowers, Doug Geis and Erica Geis kind of came up with that out of the legislature. It was kind of a nice touch.
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. It was a nice touch. I thought it looked really nice the way they presented it. Doug sent me pictures. I think he said Erica came in and did it. I thought it looked really good. It just, I guess that's what they do at the state level when there's a passing. To my knowledge, I think this is the first time a sitting council member has ever passed while in office.
That's what I heard.
So I think it was a nice touch, and I thought it really looked great up there.
Now, by charter, City Council is charged with filling any vacancy on the group. Every group has their own way of filling these vacancies a little bit. While you were on council for eight straight years, you had to fill 3 different voids.
Correct.
And you added Jack Meyer, Dave Gorgon, Angie Winton. I would argue from a personal standpoint, 3 of the best people.
Yeah, I was very happy with that. It was funny. Dave, it was I was shocked when Dave Gorgon put in for it, but it worked good because I think there was only like 2 months left before the term was up or something. And he said, I don't want to run, I just want to fill in. And we thought that was good going into an election year, that it didn't give somebody an advantage or whatever. And not to mention, Dave Gorgon's, Mr. Taylor. So it was a good thing. But Jack, he came in kind of early, I think, my first term, and I think he ended up serving maybe 3 years as, and I thought he did a really good job. And then the second term, I believe Angie, was it Alex's position?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I think she's done a great job, and she's still on city council doing a good job, in my opinion.
When, from your own standpoint, first as a council member and then as chair, were certain guidelines in your head? When you walked into the room, what were you thinking?
Well, and everybody's different. So, right now I think council has put out that they're, taking resumes and applications. I think the deadline was yesterday, though. I'm not positive. But, they'll decide how they want to do it. I from my standpoint, when I was voting, I was looking at, who was dedicated to our city, and that was kind of one of the things that I kind of looked at and stuff. And luckily for the people that I voted for, I thought they were all really good.
And it did work out for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for the benefit of the
I
city.
think Jack ended up moving to Florida.
Correct.
And that's why he didn't run again. And then he's back now, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what's going to go on.
He didn't put in, though, I don't believe. So.
Exactly. Speaking of vacancies, the Taylor Recreation Commission is currently seeking new applicants. Their whole group terms this time out. Well, it doesn't term, but they can reapply.
Right.
Okay. With all boards and commissions in the city, do you ever really stop looking for volunteers?
Not really. So, you know, definitely maybe throw a link out there or something. We're always looking for board members. There's many different boards. I think if you go on our website, you can look at all those different boards. You know, I will have to admit that I haven't been probably as proactive on that because we're really trying to fill employee positions at this point, you know, and so that's kind of taken my, but you know, some boards are really good at it. You know, they'll reach out to me and say, hey, this person needs to be reappointed.
Right.
If a board comes to me and says, Mayor, we have an open position, this person really wants to be a part of this, I still make them put in because usually if we take it to council, they have to have a bio or a resume or something. But I'll also go in and look to see if anybody put in for that board as well, you know, and then just kind of compare the two. So, you know, it's usually some boards are very proactive about doing that, and then others, you know, so, you know, we kind of, you know, go over it when we can or when we're thinking about, you know, and stuff. So I do have a spreadsheet, but it's another, there's a lot of boards and we're always trying to find, you know, and then some people will want to be reappointed. Some say, no, I'm good now, you know, and so we're always willing, we're always taking applications, you know, I mean, we don't always get them, but I'm just saying at any point if somebody ever decided they wanted to be on a board or thought about it, go on, see what boards you may be interested in, because that makes it a little easier if they have a specific board. But there has been a time or two where I've looked and said, okay, they listed this and this, but this seems like a pretty good person here. And I'll say, hey, we have an opening on this board that's, you know, are you interested? And they've done that as well.
Sure.
So,
what's the easiest way to get your name in the mix?
basically sending I would say send a resume to Kimber or Michelle or myself and say, please consider putting me on a board in the email, because we'll print the resume or the bio, and then we have a folder for that. And then, you know, if they would maybe in the email specify which board they'd like to be on.
Gotcha. Makes
and
sense.
that makes it a little easier, because then we'll either write it on the resume or we'll put that cover sheet on the resume as well.
Understood. You've done a tremendous amount of improvements in parks and recreation. Now we're moving toward cameras in the parks. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the program?
Yeah, so this is, we probably started really diving into this a couple months ago. You know, we had a situation in the northwest corner, you know, with a shooting, and it really made us, you know, sit down and say, what do we got to do here? Because, you know, we can't have cops everywhere all the time, you know, and this was a 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, and not the time you'd kind of expect that, although it can happen anytime. So I think Guido and Jeff Adamishin sat down and started, you know, we used the Axon cameras for the body cams and all that stuff. We also used the Flock program, but these are from the same company, but they're called, I think, the Falcon or something. I know it's a bird.
I think that might be.
Yeah, so what it does, it gives us an aerial view. It's hard mounted, but it's live time. It's through Axon, and so it'll go right to our police dispatch, and we'll have you know, it'll come through and stuff. So we got a 60-day free trial. And then if we decide we want to do this, council would have to pass it, and we would pay a monthly fee, or probably a yearly fee for all these. So we're going to start out with a few parks, see how it works. We do get the 60-day free trial. If we decide this ain't the group for us or whatever, but it's nice because it's all pretty much coordinated with the existing equipment we have now. We will put signs in those parks that you will be under surveillance when entering these parks, just to let people know it's not an Uncle Sam type thing. I don't, you know, as long as you're not breaking the law, I mean, it's just going to periodically pop up on there. But this way we can gather footage, you know, of if something goes wrong, it can help us solve that situation. And if people are on camera, they might not do things like they would normally.
Isn't that true?
Absolutely, it's the truth.
Because I remember having this conversation about body cams with Chief Blair, and one of the very first things he told me, and he laughed about it, but he was serious. He was dead serious. Is it works both ways too.
Absolutely.
The police officer has to behave.
Absolutely.
You know, that kind
Absolutely.
of thing. You know?
That's a great thing.
It is interesting. Any idea where you're going to put them yet, or do you
I
want
know
to
for
announce that?
sure Northwest Park.
Okay.
Heritage Park. Eventually, we'll put them in Lang Park when
Okay.
that's upon completion, if we like the program.
Sure. And then you take
I
it from
think
there,
there's
kind of-
another one or two, but I'm
Okay.
not sure which actually they are.
Those
So,
make sense,
Yeah,
though,
so
you know, right
Guido
off the
would
bat.
be more of, him or Jeff would be able to tell you which. But I know for sure Heritage Park and Northwest Park,
Understood.
because they're two of our biggest parks.
I know you're very proud of all the improvements that were done at Heritage Park, and you had the Westmount Church reopened, the railroad cars were redone, the trail lighting came in right at the same time. The Historical Society even renamed the Township Hall there. All of these things happening, the trail lights, the activity building being renovated. It now can be rented out. You want to give us your best pitch?
I think if one of the reasons we wanted to have that like kind of open house ribbon cutting of the church, kind of tied it all into one to where we did the dedication of the Township Hall, Jared Sexton, and then we went over to the church, did the ribbon cutting of that. It was kind of my first time seeing it all complete. I was blown away. Those windows are absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice little place to have a wedding. You got the park right there. You got the gazebo for photos, and then like I said, over probably about a year or two ago, year and a half ago, Guido came and said, "Hey, we have this existing building that's just basically sitting there, and it's what about maybe moving this into a hall, making it a hall?" And we thought it was a great idea, and it turned out absolutely great. Over time we'll continue to do a few little improvements to it. I think but right now, I think he said you can fit 200 people roughly.
Yeah, 250.
And literally you can have your wedding at the chapel and walk right over. In the wintertime, you can even we'll make sure those sidewalks are plowed and salted properly and everything. And so we think it's a great one-stop shop. So we do have a contract with the church, that goes through. They pay a fee to rent that church from us for a year, by the year, and then they charge. But the hall is going to be rented through us. However, we will work with them to see if there's dates available to do the whole, the wedding and the hall that night or whatever.
It's also it's nice for the city to have a different price point for kind of the same thing, because not everybody can afford to go to the Lakes of Taylor and get married.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's pretty affordable. We set it up to where you can bring your own food if you want.
Right.
We have that little kitchen area. We're going to have like heating ovens in there and stuff to keep the food. So if you have it catered, they can at least, and I think it's a great alternative to a very, when I got married, it wasn't like that, but now there's like 2 and 3 year waiting lists for
Right.
places and stuff.
Right.
So if you're looking to have a quick wedding in a hall, this is a good time to reach out, because that hall, I think, has quite a bit availability. And the church, I think, is now starting their, I think they had an open house last weekend again, and they're starting to book, weddings and other things there as well.
Staying on Parks and Recreation, we're also looking at new playscapes being installed as we talk, being worked on at Rotary Park and Homestead Parks. Okay, over the past decade, we've replaced playground equipment in the great majority of our parks.
This is the last 2, I believe.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, over the last probably 10 years, I'd say at least. Since I've been here, I know Mayor Soller started that, but we wanted to continue because a lot of this stuff was getting old and maybe somewhat dangerous. But we've brought them up to date. I know all the schools did all their elementaries,
Right.
like we
Which
talked
is a
about before.
hidden
Yeah,
plus.
those are really
Yeah.
nice. I think people are going to be amazed by the one we put in Lang Park when completed. But that's what we needed to do. And not Lang, but Rotary Park and what's the park? Homestead. Those will be completed probably here in the next couple months.
It's a fantastic program when you were able to jump in and stay with it. You just keep plugging away because it's amazing. When we look back, at 10 years ago, when you started on council, when I started with the city, you look around and you go, probably the biggest thing talked about at Heritage Park was the seawall, and that's like nobody even remembers it
Right.
anymore, okay?
Yeah, that was
and it's
falling
brand
in
new.
and-
And then you look around and all of these parks that were really getting dilapidated. Now you go to any of them and they're fantastic.
Well, Carl, maintenance is a huge thing,
Right.
You know, and that's not just with our parks equipment, you know, our playscapes and stuff, but with our our vehicles and all that. And you know, Ralph's a stickler on that, and I couldn't be happier about that. And DPW, because I am too. You know, when I was in the service, you went down, you didn't drive a vehicle, even. You know, when I was a delivery driver, you didn't start your day without checking your oil first and doing, you know, I mean, simple routine. You looked under to see if there was any drips or anything, and when you got back, you did the same thing. You know, so maintenance on vehicles and equipment is huge, and it's something that I try to promote to everybody, that it's stuff we need to do and we will do. And luckily, a lot of these directors that are here and came in are sticklers on it as well. Because you pay a lot of money for this stuff, and you want it to last as long as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we head in the fall, okay, it's also a perfect time for people, and I know a lot of people are thinking about this, to sign up at places like the Taylor Recreation Center to get themselves back in shape and do the best they can through the cold weather months that we all live through. That center has been literally totally remodeled.
Yeah, it's been completely redone. From top to bottom. The one great thing I think about that is, you know, the gym is brand new basically, but you have the indoor walking track.
Sure.
You know, and in the winter months, that's kind of a nice thing. I know some people do like to walk outside. You know, for a resident, it's very affordable to go there. You know, I will say that we tried to look at maybe seeing how some way we could get pickleball in that building, but we just can't.
It would be nice.
Yeah, you know, but we're looking still at the Sportsplex and other things like that. And
Right.
then some of these parks will, you know, probably within the next year or two, we'll definitely have some pickleball courts
I
going.
think you'll make a lot of people happy that
I
way.
think so too. You know, I think a lot of people want it, and we're you know, dialing down areas of where we want to do it and how we're going to do it. You know, like I said, the one situation over is at Fletcher. I got to put a parking lot in there first, and those can be a little pricey. You know,
Right,
so.
exactly. Staying on renovations, you've been doing a lot of hard work here. We've done a really magnificent job with the police department. Okay, that interior of that building was very dilapidated, and to see what it looks like now, and we'll be showing some, you know, eventually some pictures to go along with this video that we're running. The locker rooms going along with what they had done before with the fitness area and stuff like that, at a time when you're trying to hire new officers and make kind of a family over there. It's got to be pleasing to come into a place that you'd like to go.
Carl, that's what we want. We have to make it to where, you know, we offer police officers come to our facility.
Right.
You know, if they're at an existing police department, come check out our facility, look around, see if you like it here, because we still offer that lateral program where people can come from other departments, basically not lose their rate of pay. You know, they do lose their seniority, but they're coming in at a rate of pay of how many years? I think it's 5 years, up to 5 years. And we did get a lot of people from that. We got a lot of great officers from that. And talking to them, you know, because I do see them in the back parking lot and stuff, and talk to them. And they're very happy to be here, and that makes me happy. And the fact that they see, not just in our facility, you know, with the gym is huge, the redoing of the locker rooms, but the technology, the vehicles, that's big. And a lot of, you know, I've talked to a few of the officers, especially the ones that came from downtown, and they're like, the equipment here is just unreal. And when, you know, you did them segments with them, and to hear them say, this is my forever home, makes me very happy, you know. And there's still other officers that are either waiting for something or another, but they're wanting to come here. So I know a few that have reached out to me, and so we're trying to build our police force up. We've kind of started that program to where, you know, if we have a PSO that wants to be a police officer, we're willing to invest in that, you know, and send them to the academy and stuff. So we're doing everything we can to try to get people to want to come here, and when they get here, to make sure that they want to stay here. Because, you know, that's another thing too.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And it seems like we're doing a pretty good job.
I think so. You know, our numbers, I think we finally have slowed down on the retirements, because, you know, it's kind of tough, but over the years, you know, the way we had big blocks of hires there back, especially in the 80s and 90s, you know, we're running into those retirements. So when a certain year we got quite a few people that are leaving that year. So, you know, you hire one and two people retire. It's tough to get caught up, you know. But I think we're in the right, we're moving in the right direction. Chief Blair and Chief Levedini are doing a great job of still trying to recruit, always looking at different ways. We have the kiosk in the mall, you know, so always trying to figure out ways to try to get people to come here. And we're actually doing that for employee positions as well, you know, just non-public safety, because we got a few departments that, you know, we need help. And these people, literally, their slots open to where you come in. I mean, there's still a probationary period, but you're walking into a union position.
Yeah, which is a
which
big
is a
advantage.
good thing, you know.
On the fire department front, you recently promoted Al Young to deputy chief.
Yeah.
What was your take?
Well, I was kind of glad to see it. You know, I can tell you that, you know, the fire department would have like meetings and stuff over there, and they would invite me, and I would go over to a few things, and it seemed like Al always kind of ran it, you know, and I was always very impressed by that, how he conducted himself, how he kind of ran the meetings and stuff. Very honest, which is what I like, you know, and you know, so when I saw he put in for it, I heard there was a few people that was considering putting in for it, but I guess, you know, when he put in, they decided, you know, I guess there was maybe a consensus that maybe Al should be the, and I could have put it out, you know, I could have looked at and seen if anybody else, but, you know, Al has been with us a long time. He's conducted himself very well. I think he's going to help Chief Portis greatly. And it was, to me, it was an easy decision. We didn't need to go out. We didn't need to put it out. If Al wanted the position, we sat down and kind of had an interview with him, and it went really well. And at that point, I think a day or two later, me and Dan Bazzura sat down and talked with Chief Portis, and thought that he was the right guy, and we didn't need to go any further, and offered him the job.
Al's an interesting guy, because when you look at his resume, I mean, certain things scream out at you, and Leader does.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, first in his class, this, that, and the other, and so many of these things kind of pop out. The other thing that caught me was, if I'm not misspeaking, 27 years starting in the fire auxiliary.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, that takes you a little ways back.
Yeah, he's been here quite a while, and like you said, I feel the same way. He's got that leader quality, and he's motivated.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
You know, I love to see people motivated. He was happy to have, you know, to get the position and stuff where, you know, and it's kind of, you know, it's different for him, but I think he's excited to start this new chapter. You know, he goes from, you know, working different shifts and all that to basically 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so, you know, I'm pretty excited. I think it's just going to benefit our fire department.
Yeah,
being in that position.
I
really do.
I think we got the right guy.
I do too.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Infrastructure work in Taylor never ends. Okay, work is being done on Monroe, Van Born, E-Course. WIC was recently completed. Some work goes quicker than others. What's your take on general work? I mean, are you tired of orange barrels, or?
You know, here's the thing, Carl. So I'm going to touch on this. Yes and no.
Okay.
Those orange barrels means things are getting fixed that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
You know, usually this time of year, I sit down with Chris Gibbs, our city engineer, Ralph Richards, Dan, and we kind of come up with a game plan on roads. You know, we get out the Pacer rating, which shows the degree of that the conditions that these roads are in, and we kind of pick areas. What we try to do right now has been, because there's been quite a few, we're trying to do neighborhoods if possible. The good thing is we're getting through those, you know, so then we'll start doing, so we recently did this, but I can tell you, like last year, what we normally do, and I don't want to point the finger or, you know, upset anybody, but we reach out to other entities that do work on roads in the city of Taylor. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
And we say, do you have any projects planned in the city of Taylor? Well, the last year we were told no.
Okay.
So at this point, we had Wick Road, we were going to do Monroe and all that other stuff. Well, then the railroads popped up. Now they're federal, okay?
Yes.
So we don't have any say-so in all that. So Then it was, okay, we're going to do all the railroads in Taylor at the same time, and we're going to close these roads, because it'll go quicker or whatever. We don't have a say-so in that. All we can do is notify everybody. I will say that I'm not happy with the conditions those railroads are left in and the job they did. We've been in communication with them many times. I'm kind of happy to see it looks like there's some new railroad ties put over by Beach Daily and Inkster to make me think that they're going to come back there. But the debris from the work they did is still sitting there. And it's really upsetting me. So we have been in communication trying to get those problems fixed. But what happened is we were doing our work, then the railroads, and then all of a sudden we see E-Course lined up with barrels. We had no idea. So we reached out to certain entities and said, hey, are you doing? No, we're not doing nothing. We're not doing nothing. So our city engineer, Chris Gibbs, found out who put the barrels down, reached out to them, and they said, well, we can't tell you that and stuff. And he says, well, I'm the city engineer from Taylor. I'm going to send you an email to show that who I am or whatever. Come to find out they were subcontractor of a certain entity, and apparently they weren't on the same. But I'm happy E-Course Road is having work done on it. And then maybe a month later, I drive down Van Born and I'm going, wow, they're doing Van Born too. And it's a major headache, but at the end of the day, Carl, any work that we can have done by those other entities is a good thing. And I'm not going to complain about it. It is going to be a headache, and it can be frustrating for drivers. I get it. I was frustrated too. Luckily, we wanted as much of this stuff done before school started, so it wouldn't alter the buses too much. I got a little nervous and wasn't super happy with Monroe, but they were able to get through Kenyon and off of, so, and then they actually even didn't work in the morning and in the afternoon. So I think they're moving over to the north side of Monroe starting next week.
And from a driver's perspective, you can't have it both ways here, okay? Especially when you're talking about, you brought up Van Born, you brought up E-Course, E-Course especially, okay? Those roads, people have been complaining about those roads forever.
I've been complaining about E-Course between Pardee and Beach Daily were absolutely ridiculous.
Awful.
So I'm very happy that work is being done over there. Do I think they could have probably done a little more?
Yeah.
I do. But in the same sense, I'm happy with what we're getting. And I think they're going to start those middle lanes here soon. So they're doing panel replacement, but I think there's a few more panels that kind of need to be replaced, in my opinion.
Is there a set plan for what's next yet?
So as of right now, we kind of dialed in the neighborhoods, what we're doing with asphalt. The good thing is you're always going to have asphalt streets to maintain, but over the last few years, we've really dialed in and got a lot of them done. So now we're getting to those one-offs. So we need to start, you can use, I can't remember, local roads and major roads. You can move money from one fund to the other, but not the other. So I think it's major into local. We need to start doing more of the cement. So with the finalization or kind of winding down on the asphalt, like I said, there's still going to be, the streets here and there that are, but we need to start tackling more of the cement. And I know people complain that, well, why don't you just do the whole road? It's the same reason they're doing E-Course. You have, the price of cement is very expensive, and it's better to fix problem spots than to go in, because we can fix many more of those, which there are many of them, as opposed to just doing one road, and that would basically suck up all the money for the year.
Right, which wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Business activity continues to boom in the city of Taylor.
I'm pretty happy.
Chick-fil-A appears to have all the okays to come
so
in.
I can tell you this, they have all their permits, they've done everything. What are we, it was today the 12th or 13th, September 13th. I thought I heard that they wanted to start breaking ground in September.
Fantastic.
So Chick-fil-A is still 100% coming. They have everything they need. I think the last I had heard, they were still kind of having some talks with the mall so that some of their employees could park in the mall parking lot. That has nothing to do with the city or the county. They have all their permits, and they will be starting work here sometime in the near future. Sooner the better, I hope.
right around the corner from us here, new Buffalo Wild Wings Express.
Yep.
Nice looking.
I think it looks
Facility.
great.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
I drive by it
fantastic.
every day, and I think they did a great job out there. It looks good. They were going to have like a pizza company.
Right.
It's actually a 2-tenant building. So the pizza company backed out. So there's one. The other one's open now, I believe,
Okay.
unless they had
Alright.
filled it. I don't know, but so there's a good possibility something else will be going in there as well.
And we've been getting a lot of activity up and down Telegraph. There's no doubt.
Telegraph
about that.
is very, you know, it's kind of good to see, you know, where,
Right.
you know, I think it's either Skippers or Scooters. I always forget it. That's going to be the coffee place next to
Yeah,
Tubby's.
I think it's Scooters. I
Scooters,
think it's
okay.
Scooters, yeah.
And I'm thinking of the old Skippers.
Yeah, the
that
old
used to be-
Skippers, yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, so that's a coffee place going in there. That worked out good because it was just kind of like a little lot right there in between the two.
Right.
And then they, I think, partnered with Tubby's and kind of redid the driveway there,
Yeah.
which needed to happen.
Sure.
And so they worked it out to where, you know, you can drive through both places and stuff. So.
And plus, we've got another one coming. It looks like at Crawley and Telegraph. You wanna give the audience a.
Well, I can't, you know, like I
Can you
said,
do it yet?
normally I can't, you know, until they put plans in, but there's the company Tifa just approved it yesterday.
Right.
But the company that bought it from, part of it was owned by the city and part of it was owned by Tifa. Council passed it last week, Tifa passed it yesterday, which is just north of that pawn shop right
Right.
there. The company that bought it also owns the rights to Sonic restaurants.
Right.
So
So
that's all I'll say on that.
so we'll do one of these.
Yes. So it kind of looks like, but I don't want to, you know, but yeah.
Now the other part of that is we've talked about some restaurants and I guess some smaller businesses. Okay, still business and development is doesn't show any signs of tapering off. Several major industrial build-outs in the mix, including the Metro 94 Commerce Park, CMAC coming in, the Marriott hotels. I believe one of them looks like it's almost done. Okay, UniFirst really jumping out.
I think they're done now.
They look like
Yeah.
they're done. Seems like the only one that we really lost during the pandemic and the resulting changes in the economy was the Horticultural Center at the WC3, at least for now.
Yeah, they,
Okay.
you know, I talked to them and, you know, at that point they just kind of decided, you know, with the pandemic and everything going,
Right.
they kind of put that on and they said they didn't know if it would come back. You know,
Right.
I think it would be a nice, you know, addition to over there, but, you know, that's Wayne County Community College's
Right.
decision
Yeah.
on whether they want to do it or not. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll come. I mean, they
Yeah.
talked that it's a possibility, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking it might not. But
Yeah, because they've
know.
delayed it for quite a long time. And I know Michigan State was a big partner there, and Michigan State changed leadership. So you run into those kind of things.
Well, the one thing we're looking at too is, you know, technology is definitely increasing, especially in the area. So Aerotropolis has been great, working with Chris Girdwood. And you know, I wasn't the biggest necessarily fan of Aerotropolis early on in my council years, but Chris puts me to work. You know,
Okay.
he's working hard for our city, and I love it. The autonomous vehicle is really taking off. What they're trying to do now is take it out of the universities and kind of create areas to where if you're a professor and you're coming up with this technology, you know, you can, you know, come to this place and not be a professor and put it in the market and everything. And
Interesting.
so this is causing a lot of property to be looked at around the area. Willow Run has been a big central point for autonomous vehicle. I think it's the leader in the country, and it's kind of branching out a little bit. So, like I said before, manufacturing is really coming back. It seems like, you
Right.
know, and I think the pandemic kind of woke the country up a little bit that we shouldn't be so dependent. So we have a lot of property out there. The biggest issues and obstacles for that is permitting.
Gotcha.
Because, you know, Eagle and FEMA, you know, wetland, if it's, you know, if there's a puddle on the property, it's a wetland possibly. And don't always agree with those assessments, but, you know, at the end of the day, that's the process that they have to follow. And we're working with Aerotropolis to get some of the properties that we own in the city of Taylor all ready to go. So if there's a little area of wetland on it, we can remediate that to another area, and in that way, if somebody says, I'm looking for this, we have it right here ready to go. What you got to do is pull the permits for the business, but as far as the land's good to go.
Junior League World Series.
Yeah.
Okay, the 41st was held in August. Local team, Taylor North, won the USA Championship before falling in the finals to Taipei. Record crowds in the park. It had to be a good time to be mayor of Taylor.
It was, I love that time. I mean, whether I'm the mayor of Taylor or not, like I said, our family, has been a part of it from the beginning. To see the park as full as it was, I think the U.S. Championship, I think ESPN said roughly maybe 5,000 people.
Amazing.
So we're kind of looking at like, hey, how can we better, get these people an opportunity to be able to find a spot to see the game and stuff. So, talking with Dan and his groups trying to work on things, but I couldn't have been happier with the event as a whole. And while I'm there, I do talk to families that come in from other states and other countries, and it's nice to hear, an outsider's opinion. And everybody loved Heritage Park. They thought, the residents of Taylor, Michigan were great people. Everywhere they went, everybody was very nice. They thought the park looked great. All of them was like, we have nothing, we don't have any parks that look like this. And that's kind of nice to hear, and it's such a staple of our community that we're looking at trying to get grants to really, make that a baseball stadium somewhat. But there's a lot of commitments that we have to do that. One being with Little League. We have to have the commitment from Little League to say Taylor's going to be the junior league host for the next 20 years. Because I think they do it 2 years at a time or maybe 3 years. And at any time, if Little League wanted to pull it, they could. So if we're going to do that sort of investment, we do need to have some sort of. And we've been in talks with Little League about saying, hey, this is maybe what we'd like to do. We do think that they should throw some money in there. Especially now that they have ESPN Plus there all week, which was great.
And I'll tell you, the LED lights along the trail, I found myself, it was kind of comical because I got there for that Saturday night game. I got there, naturally that game started in the sunlight, and I parked all the way in front of the Sheridan Center, walked my way back because it was so busy, okay? And when we were done, it was dead dark, okay? And so I made my way back to my car, and I was like 100 yards along before I realized, wow, this does make a big difference.
And it's funny, Carl, because that was one of the few things that really made me realize going to the night games. And when you left the ball field area, walking back to your car, it's like, man, I can barely see my hand in front of my face right now. So, that was a few, probably close to a decade ago where I started thinking we really need to light this up. And I remember talking to Greg Bazura about it, and he's like, that would be great. And he still, he sees me and he says, I'm very happy you said, you did what you said you were going to do. And he goes, he's very happy about it, and so am I. And I know a lot of the residents seem to be very happy about it as well.
Especially because Heritage Park, in its basic, a great walkers park.
Oh, yeah.
And I think with walkers really appreciate
I think so. Yeah, I think it definitely, it shines a light on our beautiful park even in the evening and the early mornings.
Right, exactly. DTE Energy Service has been hampered by severe summer storms, okay? People are not happy when they lose power, okay? What do you see going on behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, I'd have to give you my personal opinion, which I never have a problem doing. But, I have to say I was very fortunate this year. My neighborhood, luckily, did not get affected much by the power outages. But my dad, his house was out constantly, it seemed like, and I know a lot of other people. But it wasn't just Taylor.
Right.
But, a lot of people call me, send me emails saying, hey, is there anybody you can call? No. I mean, basically, I can call DTE. We have a representative, and it would be, we're working on everything. They have a system that they do. Right. This last time, so I think this is something they maybe just came up with. They have like these tractor trailer trucks that are just giant generators. And just recently it went out over here kind of on
Yes.
Allen Park,
Yeah.
Taylor border.
Yeah.
She sent me an email and said, hey, we're rolling out or she called me actually and told me that they were bringing these in, and she's like, the good thing is it's going to give them power.
Right.
It will shut off intermediately from time to time. However, it's going to be a big chunk of machinery by people's houses, and it can be maybe a little noisy.
Right.
At the end of the day, if it was me, I'd rather have electricity and deal with a little bit of noise
I hear you.
and this tractor trailer thing in front of my house until they got it up and rolling.
Right.
I think the biggest issue is, in my opinion, is the trees.
Yeah.
They came out and maybe trimmed my power lines. I'd say it's probably going on 10 years. And when they trimmed them that far from the line.
Really.
And I remember saying, is there any way you can, hey, I was even willing to give them some money out of my pocket to
Yeah.
cut them down a little further, and the rule is 12 inches or whatever it was at that time. So we have a lot of trees that get in the lines of our power lines,
Right.
and that's what causes these issues. And it's definitely an inconvenience, but until they really start hammering the trimming of these trees, I do know that they've been doing some helicopter surveillance.
Yes.
Again, it would have been nice to tell us what they were doing, because I was at Heritage Park and I'm seeing this helicopter. Looked like an executive helicopter. I thought it was landing in Heritage Park, like, are they having an emergency? And then it just kind of, and everybody was like, it was just this gray, nice looking, and everybody, got online and like, what's this heli? So we did find out, I had our deputy police chief like, hey, what's going on? And we found out it was DTE doing surveillance in the area of power lines. So, which, I'm glad to see they're doing that.
Well, there's no, I don't think there's any magical fix to this, because, if all the power lines were buried like they're buried in the modern era, if they were buried in the 1960s or whatever, then Taylor would look differently.
Well, it's
okay?
funny
But,
because, two people in my office live in another city
Right.
that have underground,
Oh, and they
they're
went out
losing
too.
power
Oh,
more
yeah.
than we are.
Oh, yeah, that
it's
happens too.
amazing,
Yeah.
that both of them have lost not just for a couple days, but almost a week or two at a
Right.
time, and so I'm not really understanding, maybe there's not enough power going to some of these neighborhoods and stuff. So I'm not really, that's
when you
not
look
I'm not an electrical engineer, but there's definitely issues that I don't think DTE is hurting for money.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see a little more proactive in trying to figure out what that problem is. And if they need to start fixing and replacing their infrastructure, then that's what they need to do.
I hear you. As we head for the finish line here, I challenge you. Who are you giving a shout out to this time?
I was sitting there, I was thinking you were probably going to ask me this. So I was kind of, right now, I'm going to give it to Casey Sandifer down in our DPW.
Okay.
We had emergency situation down there. A long-time employee, great employee, ended up having to retire quickly. It's a situation where sometimes everybody doesn't know what everybody does.
Gotcha.
And it really put us in a tough situation, in a billing situation, to where, what do we do? And Casey jumped in there, head first and really kind of worked her way through it to learn as much as she could and to do it. We have eventually gotten another person down there so that they can kind of learn together and stuff. But, Casey took it head on, and it was stressful for her and frustrating, but she definitely made her way through it, and I'm very grateful for that. And I know it was a lot of stressful moments there and stuff, and it was the water billing situation and stuff. So I got to give it to Casey.
Casey's a tremendous employee,
Yeah.
and we're never going to hear the end of this with Casey.
Yeah, you're probably right. But you know what? To her credit, I haven't really. We got the person down to that. To fill that spot. So I think they're probably still both diving in and learning the entire process and stuff. But I can tell you, Casey definitely kept the train rolling.
Right.
When we needed her to, and so But yeah, it's. She did a good job, and I greatly appreciate that.
Well, that's a good place to finish. Thanks for joining us
Absolutely.
on another episode from the Mayor's Desk with our Mayor, Tim Woolley. For our crew behind the scenes, Samantha Rickard and Joseph Francis Camilleri. I'm your host, Carl Zymak. We'll see you on the next episode, but before we sign off, let's take you home with a little promotion for our annual Hollapalooza, which is scheduled on October 27th. We hope to see you there. Mayor, what are you going to dress up as this year?
I don't know. I was Obi-Wan Kenobi last year. You know, I'm a Star Wars geek, so I've kind of been looking through a few little things to see what I might do, but I'll definitely be there in something, you know. And,
Well, if I remember
one of
this
my favorite
clip-
events.
If I remember this clip, you're featured prominently, I think.
So yeah, usually my office, we try to come up with a, you know, Michelle
type
was
of
dressed
theme.
up as
Yeah.
like Princess Leia, but Kimber had already agreed to do one of those standalone places over in the
Gotcha.
park. So we try to do a theme from my office, and last year we did Star Wars. Doesn't mean we might not do a different version of Star Wars, you know, but we're kind of looking into that right now.
Well, Tim and I will both see you at Hollapalooza. Until then, we sign off.
Yep.
Happy Halloween! We're here with the Quest volleyball and soccer team, and they're going to show us their costumes here at Hollapalooza. All right, gang, here go Beetlejuice. You know, here go Beetlejuice. Here go that gang Chucky. There go gang Chucky. We got a witch over here, and we got a lion. Hey, gang, we got a princess. And we got a princess over here. Over here, we got another princess. And we got a princess.
Penguin.
This is Halloween.
All right, anybody out there got my back?
Hey, we've got the winners of the coolest costumes. We have Ursula and Ariel from The Little Mermaid.